Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. Today is day number 25 of the live challenge I'm doing for my videos. And today I'm going to be talking about your emotions and how they play a huge factor, obviously in your life just in general, but also on your finances. And your finances impact your emotions. So it's kind of a cyclical thing that you really want to make sure you understand and have good control over. Otherwise, it could lead to detriment results. And so obviously, the reason why it's such a big deal is because when you feel happy, what do you want to do? You want to spend money, you want to celebrate. And so that's a financial decision that you'll end up making. If you're feeling sad, one of the things that a lot of people do is they'll go and try to cheer themselves up. They'll go out for a treat, they'll go out for a drink, they'll order something on Amazon. So these emotions, almost all of them result in you just kind of going and deciding to spend money one way or another in a lot of situations. And the problem that's not necessarily a problem in and of itself unless you are not in a good place financially to be able to do that and constantly be absorbing these things. And so you want to have some type of control between feeling emotion, being able to think rationally through it and understand how these things are going to work. And I'm going to share a quick little quote that one of my friends tweeted earlier today. So he said, "We think we're logical decision makers, but we aren't. We make most decisions out of emotion and then try to use logic to rationalize it in hindsight." And that is very true. I know he reads a lot of books. This might be specifically from someone else, but he tweeted it this morning, and it definitely stands out as that's what a lot of people do. A lot of our decisions are very emotional based. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. It just depends on how you control it. If you have that awareness of when it's a good time to use these things and when to pull the trigger and actually jump in it and make a purchase and expense. But what happens is a lot of people, if you are struggling financially or not in the best shape financially, what happens is you end up feeling not that great about your financial situation. And to make yourself feel better, you spend more money, you go into credit card debt, and it makes you feel even worse. But then you kind of just keep going through this cycle. It's like, I don't feel great. To take my mind off it, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to do some self-care and things like that. And those things are fine in moderation, but you always want to be kind of comparing it back to, well, can you actually afford it? Is it actually going to be a bigger hindrance? Is it going to cause more problems emotionally down the line? And so the big key with a lot of these financial decisions is you do have to kind of anchor them into something else that's going to be more valuable, something that's more long-term than just that initial emotion that you feel. Because a lot of emotions are kind of fleeting. There's going to be things that stick in your mind. If there's something that's perpetually going on, then obviously that's something you need to address and try to resolve. But things that are not always constantly going on, if you're just feeling sad temporarily and you purchase something and you would have been fine even if you didn't purchase something, like these things, you just have to understand how your thought process works, what's actually going to make the biggest difference for you, because there's a lot of things that could add value to you. There's a lot of things that can make you feel happy, and some will actually be more long-term, more sustainable happiness than others. So if you spend money and invest it to get in shape and feel healthier, that has compounding effects on the rest of your life and your behavior and your emotions and things like that. But if you it's something that I do when I get stressed or if I'm not feeling good is I'll go and just start eating a bunch of junk, and it makes me feel good in the moment, right? But then it doesn't take too long to quickly realize like, that was a bad decision. Same thing happens with our finances. We kind of put ourselves in a worse position as a result of giving into our emotions, not thinking things out thoroughly. And that's one thing that if you just kind of hone in on, well, is this a good long-term situation? And it doesn't even have to be like multiple years. It's like, hey, how am I going to feel about this tomorrow? Or how am I going to feel about this next week when I'm feeling all groggy and with your finances? It's just leads to more stress, less confidence, and all that stuff just kind of circulates back into your life, into your relationships and things like that. So definitely try to have something in place, a buffer with your finances when it comes to, hey, I'm feeling something. What's in between you and just hitting that quick buy button, that buy it now, ship it tomorrow type feeling. And it's tricky, right? Because that's the world that we live in. Over the last handful of years, everything that we think of now is kind of Amazoned, where we just want that instant gratification. We expect something to be instantaneous in the next day. And we even expect that of our own kind of personal results. So if I'm not feeling good, I want to feel happy as fast as possible, even if it's not a real lasting one. And so we'll do things temporarily, and those aren't always going to be the best solution. So get a good understanding of what's actually going to have more of those long-term success as far as the value that it's going to provide you, and make sure that, especially even when it's like the celebration thing. So I have a client that's retiring. There's always awesome things coming up. So hopefully that's the case for you, that there's always good and positive things to be excited about, be happy about. And the thing about that is, if you end up going too overboard, you could end up being stressed about it. So even the holidays is an awesome time to celebrate. It makes sense for a lot of people where they can afford to do gifts and things like that. But if you go overboard, spend 2 times what you probably should have, it turns something that's really awesome into something that's really crappy later on. And so it's not a good idea. In the moment, it might feel good, and for maybe a couple of days it might. But yeah, just think a little bit longer term with these decisions that you're going to make, because it does impact you more ways than others, and it's always going to be kind of that cyclical feedback into other areas of your life. And that's why it's important to kind of keep balance in finances and your emotions. All these things are constantly in flux and changing. And if you have better control, if you have some systems in place, I know with one of my clients specifically, not due to emotions or anything like that, but just to have a better control on the financial decisions and when to make purchases, when to spend money and when not to. And it was just basic things that were important. It's not rocket science that we talked through, but it's like, hey, can I afford it? Do I actually need it now, or can I get this in a few months? Can I wait for a sale? And there's all these different things that you can kind of play out. But when you're reacting to emotions, you are in reaction mode. You're not actually planning. You're not being strategic. And it's, in most cases, you don't want to be reactionary to too many things in life. You want to be very intentional with what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. And those emotions really derail your intentions a lot of times. Because yeah, if you're on a good diet or whatever, you're working out, and all of a sudden emotions come in and they derail you. They make you start eating bad. So when you feel bad, you don't feel like working out, you don't have the energy. So all these things are always feeding back and looping back into things. So hopefully that's helpful to help you understand how these emotions could impact you financially, but then also give you the understanding like, hey, you don't have to give in to these emotions. You just need to create some barriers, some thought processes to work through. And most of the time, because these emotions are just quick, fleeting type moments, is you're not going to feel that urge constantly to want to buy things. If you kind of delay that decision, if you delay, most of the times you don't have to make a decision just like that, just in the moment, because of the emotion that you're feeling. It's like, oh, this sounds awesome. Let's think about it. Let's see what else is out there. Let's start to research these things. And once you slow that down, it's really going to save you from making mistakes and errors as far as, oh, that was a bad purchase decision, or that was a horrible decision. Like now I'm in a worse spot, and now I'm going to feel worse about the situation emotionally. So all these things are always going to be circling around. So hopefully that's helpful. If you didn't catch the full video, you can jump to the beginning. And if you find it on YouTube, you can actually do the 2 times speed, and I'll talk a little bit faster through that video. So thanks for joining me today.